YouTube, Rubber and Dirt here. Figured I'd try a new format. I just basically gonna read off a script with some B-roll of me writing in the background. So let me know what you think. Comment down below, thumbs up, like, subscribe. So I got rid of my Tenere for a street bike. I love it. As motorcyclists, we all do this weird kind of math in our heads. We're always weighing our practicality against passion and what makes sense against what our heart is yelling at us to do. We build up this idea in our head, what kind of rider we are. We go out and buy the bike that fits that story. But what happens when the story completely changes? What happens when the life you built around a certain kind of motorcycle just disappears and you're left holding the wrong key for a brand new lock? I find that out the hard way. Sold my adventure bike, the Tenere, literally built to conquer mountains, only to find myself living in the flatlands with a new street bike that just couldn't scratch the itch. I was missing that feeling of real exploration, that raw, unfiltered challenge of tough terrain that takes every ounce of your focus. It wasn't until I brought home this simple, beat-up little dirt bike that I finally figured out how to reconnect with how I love riding. So today I'm going to break down why sometimes taking a massive downgrade is actually the biggest upgrade you can possibly make. It all started with the promise of total freedom. I still remember the day I brought home my adventure bike. It was this big, intimidating thing gleaming under the showroom lights. It wasn't just a motorcycle. It was a ticket to a world I was desperate to get into. It had long travel suspension, a big twin-cylinder engine that just hummed with potential, and this commanding riding position that made you feel like you were on top of the world. It promised that no road was off limits and no destination was too far. And since I lived in the mountains, that wasn't just marketing talk. That was my reality every single weekend and sometimes afternoons. That bike was my partner in crime. It hauled me over high altitude passes where the air got thin and the views just went on forever. It clawed its way up rocky trails that would have sent lesser bikes packing. It plowed through muddy forest roads after a spring rain. That big engine just chugging along like it didn't have a care in the world. The real appeal was in its insane versatility. I could drone on the highway for 3 hours to get to good trails and then spend the day exploring deep in the backcountry. Totally confident that the bike could handle whatever I was dumb enough to throw at it. It was the ultimate jack of all trades. Now, was it perfect? Of course not. It was heavy, seriously heavy. Dropping it, which I did more than a few times, was a major event. It took strategic planning, a whole lot of sweat, and occasionally some blood to pick it up again. Picking up a 450 plus pound bike loaded with gear on a steep off-camber trail is a very humbling experience and kind of painful. And in a tight, technical single track, it felt less like riding a motorcycle and more like trying to wrestle a small rhino. You didn't flick it through the turns, you just sort of negotiated with it and hoped for the best. But those were the trade-offs. And for the long-range comfort and go-anywhere ability, they were worth it. And the memories we made were literally scratched into its crash bars. It was way more than just a machine. And then everything changed. A new job location, a new city, a whole new life. A life that took me from my mountain playground to the flat, wide open plains of the Midwest. The move was right call for my family and career, but man, it came with this deep sense of loss. I wasn't just leaving a place, I was leaving a huge part of who I was behind. And the symbol of that identity was my adventure bike. My logic seemed solid, almost painfully clear. There's no mountains here, I kept telling myself, trying to be the practical adult. What am I gonna do with a bike designed to climb them? It's too heavy for the city, and the knobby tires will just get shredded on all the pavement. I talked myself into it, but every reason felt like a tiny betrayal. Selling a bike you really love is a unique kind of pain. It's not like getting rid of a car. It feels like saying goodbye to a friend. One who is there for all your biggest thrills and quietest moments. I remember the day I traded it in. The deal was done. A quick signature of the title, and I stood there and watched them roll my bike into the dealership. It wasn't just that the bike was gone, it was the end of that chapter. The finality of it was just crushing. I had sold the dream because I convinced myself it couldn't grow in new soil. The new landscape is, well, it's flat. The roads are a perfect grid of right angles and long, gentle sweepers. There is an efficiency to it all that was the complete opposite of the wild, messy geography I'd left. In this world, my old ADV bike would have felt like a caged lion. So I did the logical thing. I bought a new bike. A bike that was built for this new environment. Sleek, modern. A street bike. It's a naked bike, beautiful machine, sharp lines, a screaming inline 3-cylinder engine, and sport-tuned suspension. And for a little while, it was awesome. The acceleration is just insane. Kind of brutal, visceral rush the Big Adventure Twin could never give you. Leaning into a perfect corner on sticky tires is a whole new kind of fun. It is precise and it is fast, and I love it. I became the master of the urban commute, zipping through traffic like my old bike could never do. I explored the country highways, enjoyed the silky smooth engine and the bug-free ride. But as the weeks rolled into months, a feeling started to creep in, a hollowness. The raw thrill of speed started to wear off, and it was replaced by the sense of sameness. Every ride was predictable. The roads were flawless, the turns were all the same, and the scenery, while nice, never really changed. The element of surprise, of challenge, was just gone. I finally realized what I was missing wasn't just the mountains. It was the struggle. It was the problem solving. On my Tenere, a ride was a story. You had the easy pavement start, the rising action as the trail got rough, and the climax of clearing through the obstacle, and the resolution of the tired, satisfied ride home. Every ride demanded everything from me, mentally and physically. I had to read the terrain, pick my lines, wrestle the bike's weight, and deal with whatever came next. The street bike, for all its incredible performance, didn't ask much of me. It was riding, sure, but it felt like a simplified, sanitized version of it. The soul was gone. I missed the dirt. I missed the challenge. And it hit me that my perfectly logical solution had been 100% wrong on an emotional level. The idea started as a slow burn, just a flicker. I'd see local kids buzzing around the field on little pit bikes, where I'd spot a dusty, unofficial looking trail disappearing into the woods on the edge of town. These weren't the epic landscapes I was used to, but they were something. They were unpaved, they were unknown, and they sparked a little question in my head, what if? But the idea just wouldn't leave me alone. The more I thought about what was missing, the physical effort, the intense focus, that feeling of exploring, the more this simple, stripped-down little bike started to make a weird kind of sense. This wasn't about crossing a continent anymore. It was about finding the simple fun of playing in the dirt again. So I took a leap, found a used, slightly beat-up 450 motocross bike. It wasn't a trail bike after all, reliable little workhorse. It was the polar opposite of my old adventure bike, and it felt perfect. Bringing it home felt hilarious. It felt like a toy. For a second, I had a serious wave of buyer's remorse. What have I done? Then, I took it for its first ride. I found a small local off-road area, just a mix of open fields and tight wooded trails. The first few minutes were just awkward. The bike was so light, I felt nervous and twitchy. The power was modest, but then something just clicked. I pointed it down a narrow single track, the kind of trail that would have given me a full-blown panic attack on my big adventure bike. And on this dirt bike, it was pure, unfiltered fun. The bike just danced under me. I could flick it between trees, pop the front wheel over root. I wasn't a pilot wrestling a heavy machine anymore. I was an active rider, using my whole body to work with the bike. I was sweating, my heart was pounding, and I had this massive stupid grin on my face. That lightness was my freedom. The lack of power forced me to focus on carrying momentum, on being a better, smoother rider. And when I inevitably dropped it in a sandy turn, I just laughed, picked it up with zero effort, and kept going. That was the epiphany. The adventure isn't in the size of the mountain, it's in the size of the challenge. This little dirt bike gave me a more intense, more engaging, and more rewarding dose of adventure in a 10-acre patch of woods than my street bike could ever on 100 miles of perfect asphalt. It brought me back to the joy of learning and improving on pushing my own limits. It filled that void, not by trying to be the adventure bike, but reminding me why I started riding off-road in the first place. Because it's a fun, rewarding challenge. It turns out, the biggest upgrade I could make was to simplify everything. This whole journey of selling a bike I love, trying something new, and then finding my passion again in a place I never expected has been a huge learning experience. It really taught me what we need from our motorcycles can change over time, and that the perfect bike is always a moving target. It makes me wonder, have any of you gone through something similar? Have you completely switched the type of bike you ride or sold a machine that you loved, only to have your passion sparked by something totally different? Drop your story in the comments below. I really do read every single one. And hey, if you enjoy these kind of talks about the why behind our riding lives, think about subscribing for more. In the end, the lesson I learned was simple. The right bike is almost never the one with most horsepower, the most features, or the most impressive spec sheet. The right bike is the one that fits the life you're living right now. My soul was asking for a challenge, and I just mistakenly thought that I needed a mountain range to find it. I still have my street bike, and I still love it for those perfect days on perfect pavement. But this little dirt bike, this is different. This is the bike that brought the adventure back home. It proved that you don't need an epic landscape to have an epic ride. And I can't wait to see what other forgotten trails we discover next. Like, comment, subscribe. Rubber and Dirt, out.